Imagine holding a piece of parchment that suggests everything you know about human history is a carefully constructed illusion. In the dim, heavy air of 1929, inside the dusty and forgotten corridors of the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, a discovery was made that would quietly challenge the very foundations of modern geology and archaeology. It was a fragment of a world map, dated 1513, signed by a Turkish admiral named Piri Reis. At first glance, it appeared to be a standard relic of the Age of Discovery, a beautiful, if weathered, artifact of the Ottoman Empire. But as scholars looked closer, they felt a chilling sensation of wrongness. The map didn't just show the known coastlines of the New World, it depicted a landmass at the bottom of the globe that, according to every scientific textbook, should not have been known to man for another 300 years. Even more disturbing, it showed this landmass not as a frozen wasteland, but as a rugged, ice-free coast. This is the beginning of a paradox that threatens to rewrite our understanding of reality itself. The conflict lies in a simple, devastating contradiction. Modern history states that Antarctica was officially discovered in 1820. We are taught that this continent has been encased in a massive, impenetrable ice sheet for millions of years. Yet, here is a map from the early 16th century, compiled from even older source documents, showing the Queen Maud Land region of Antarctica with topographical detail that matches what we only recently discovered using seismic sounding and satellite technology. If the map is accurate, it implies that someone was surveying the Earth's southernmost reaches long before the rise of any known civilization. This isn't just a historical curiosity, it is a signal from a past that technically shouldn't exist, a ripple in the calm waters of our established timeline. It forces us to ask, who were the original surveyors, and how did they see the world as a whole when we believe our ancestors were only beginning to master the sail? The story of the map begins in a silent museum, at a moment when the world was looking toward the future, unaware that the past was about to scream. In 1929, when Gustav Deissmann was cataloging the Topkapi archives, he found the map bundled among ignored papers. The Turkish sun cut through the heavy air of the palace in sharp, golden slats, illuminating dust motes that had settled over centuries of silence. As he unfurled the gazelle skin, the smell of old parchment and stagnant time filled the room, a scent of leather, ink, and something metallic, like ancient copper. The material was surprisingly durable, having survived wars, fires, and the collapse of empires. It is as if the map itself wanted to be found, waiting for the moment when our own technology was advanced enough to recognize the impossible data it contained. Deissmann's fingers likely brushed over the intricate calligraphy, unaware that he was touching a document that would become one of the greatest geographical enigmas in history. The Admiral, Piri Reis, was not a dreamer or a storyteller, he was a high-ranking naval officer and a meticulous cartographer. In his own notes, written on the margins of the gazelle-skin parchment, he admits he was not the original author of the data. He explains that he compiled the map from 20 different source charts, including some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. This admission creates a trail of breadcrumbs leading back into the shadows of antiquity. It suggests that the knowledge of the world's true shape was passed down through a chain of survivors or scholars from an era of humanity that has been largely forgotten. We are left to wonder about the origins of these source documents and how they managed to survive the rise and fall of countless empires. If Piri Reis was merely a compiler, who were the original masters of the craft? When we examine the technical precision of the Piri Reis map, the mystery deepens. The map utilizes a grid system that implies a sophisticated understanding of spherical trigonometry. To map the coastline of South America and Antarctica with such relative accuracy, one needs to solve the problem of longitude, a feat that 16th century sailors were famously unable to achieve with precision. The marine chronometer, the tool required to measure longitude accurately at sea, wasn't invented until the 18th century. Yet, here is a document that suggests the source cartographers possessed a level of mathematical insight that defies the conventional timeline of human progress. It raises the question, who were they, and what happened to the methods they used to measure the world? Were they a maritime people whose name has been erased from the records, or is our timeline of invention missing a critical, earlier peak? The most jarring element remains the representation of the Antarctic coastline. In the mid-20th century, researchers compared the Piri Reis map with the subglacial topography of Queen Maud Land. The results were unexpected. Some researchers argue that the coastline shown on the 1513 map matches the subglacial profile, the land as it looks beneath the ice, with remarkable fidelity. This suggests that the original surveys might have been conducted when the coast was free of ice. According to many geological estimates, the last time Antarctica could have been seen in such a state was thousands of years ago. This creates a logical impasse. Is our dating of the Antarctic ice cap missing a critical variable, or did a highly organized society exist at a time when we believe humans were barely beginning to use stone tools? The map doesn't offer an answer, it only offers a silent, stubborn presence. This contradiction creates a profound sense of intellectual uncertainty. If we consider the map as evidence, we must entertain the possibility that there is a massive dark period of human history, a forgotten era of global exploration. However, if we reject the map as a series of lucky guesses, we are ignoring a physical artifact that sits in a museum, defying easy explanation. The challenge of acknowledging these anomalies is that it forces us to confront the stability of our historical consensus. It suggests that our past might not be a straight line of progress, but perhaps a series of cycles, some of which may have reached heights we are only now beginning to reclaim. This is the inherent danger of the anomaly. It suggests that our current mastery of the world is not guaranteed, and that what we know today could be forgotten tomorrow. Consider the implications of a global civilization that could map the planet with such precision during a period of prehistory. Such a society would have needed ships, navigation instruments, and a centralized method of recording data. Traditionally, there is no archaeological record of such a civilization, no steel ruins or concrete foundations. This absence of evidence is the primary argument against such theories. But the Piri Reis map remains an outlier. It is a ghost of a world that left few other traces. It invites us to wonder if the history we are taught is merely the version that survived, a narrative that might not yet account for the uncomfortable details that don't fit the standard model. Perhaps we are looking for the wrong kind of evidence, or perhaps the evidence is buried in places we have yet to look. The Piri Reis map is not alone in its defiance of time. Other maps, like the Orensfine map of 1531 and the Haji Ahmed map of 1559, also appear to show an ice-free Antarctica or land bridges that haven't existed for millennia. These documents seem to be fragments of a lost library, a collective memory of a world that looked very different from our own. They suggest that the age of discovery wasn't just a beginning, but perhaps a rediscovery, an attempt by Renaissance explorers to piece together the remnants of an older understanding of the globe. This creates a tension between the known and the unknown that is almost palpable when studying these ancient charts. It feels as though we are catching a glimpse of a conversation that ended long before we were born. In the world of the dark thriller, the greatest fear is often that the world isn't what it seems. These maps act as a catalyst for that fear. They suggest that the very ground beneath our feet was mapped by eyes that shouldn't have been there. They imply that our ancestors were not just hunters and gatherers, but perhaps masters of the sea. When we look at the Piri Reis map, we aren't just looking at geography, we are looking at a potential rift in time. We are looking at a conflict between the physical evidence of the past and the theoretical frameworks of the present. The parchment is cold to the touch, but the questions it raises are burning. It asks us to consider if we are truly the pinnacle of human achievement, or merely the latest in a long line of travelers. The resistance to these findings is understandable. To suggest that a map from 1513 shows an ice-free Antarctica is to suggest that our geological timelines might need revision, or that a precursor civilization vanished so thoroughly that only fragments of parchment remain. It is a haunting thought that a global society could achieve such mastery and then fade into the shadows, leaving behind nothing but a few confusing lines on a gazelle skin. If we accept this, we must accept that knowledge is fragile. We must accept that our greatest achievements might one day be viewed as myths by a future generation that has forgotten we ever existed. This realization shifts the way we view our own progress, making it feel less like a permanent monument and more like a temporary flame in the wind. As we delve deeper into the mystery, we must remain cautious of the line between skepticism and imagination. Science is built on the revision of theories in the face of new evidence. The Piri Reis map is a piece of evidence that has been waiting for an answer for 500 years. It challenges us to look beyond the comfortable borders of our current understanding and ask the difficult questions. Could the Earth's climate have changed more rapidly than we currently believe? Or is there a more unsettling explanation that our understanding of the timeline of human capability is incomplete? The map provides the data, but it leaves the interpretation to us, and in that space between data and meaning, the mystery thrives. The debate continues in the corners of academia and the depths of historical research. Some argue the map simply depicts the coastline of South America bent to fit the parchment, a product of limited space and creative license. They suggest that what we see as Antarctica is actually a distorted rendering of the southern tip of the New World. Others point to the uncanny accuracy of the longitudinal coordinates as proof of a lost level of technology. There is no easy resolution, only a deepening sense of intrigue. The map sits in the Topkapi Palace, silent and inscrutable, a testament to a truth we may not be ready to fully accept. It serves as a reminder that the world is much older and more mysterious than we often dare to imagine, and that our maps are only as good as the eyes that drew them. Imagine the explorers of the 1500s setting sail with these ancient charts. Perhaps they weren't sailing into the unknown, they were following the footprints of those who came before. They were trying to find the lands that the ancients had already mastered. If this perspective holds any weight, the entire motivation for the age of exploration shifts. It wasn't just about discovery, it may have been a race to reclaim a lost inheritance. The Piri Reis map is a blueprint of that inheritance, a shattered mirror reflecting a world we no longer recognize. It represents a time when the stars and the seas were part of a single, coherent map of human ambition, a time that ended in a silence we are only now beginning to break. The mathematical precision we find in the Piri Reis document suggests that whoever created the source maps understood the Earth's circumference. They understood that the planet was a sphere and had calculated its dimensions with a surprising degree of accuracy. To do this, one needs more than just a boat and a compass, one needs an organized tradition of observation. Where are the centers of learning of this lost era? Where are the tools? If they mapped the world, they must have looked at the stars with clinical accuracy. The absence of their physical infrastructure is a haunting element of this mystery. It implies a civilization that perhaps left a lighter footprint on the earth, or one that was so utterly consumed by time that even their stones turned back to sand. Perhaps they didn't build with the materials we use today. Perhaps their mastery was so complete that they lived in harmony with the environment, leaving only intellectual footprints. Or perhaps, shifts in the Earth's climate or crust sent their entire world sliding into the sea or under the growing ice of the poles. If the environment shifted, the very locations we look for ruins might be thousands of feet beneath the ice or miles below the ocean surface. We might be looking for ghosts in the wrong graveyards. The Piri Reis map might not just be a map of the world, it could be a map of a world that moved. It is a potential record of a change that occurred before we began to write our own history, a snapshot of a moment before the deep freeze. In the end, the Piri Reis map forces us to choose between two disturbing possibilities. Either the map is a series of impossible coincidences that align perfectly with modern satellite data, or our history is missing a massive, central chapter. Both options lead to a startling conclusion. One suggests that our senses can be deceived by random chance on a global scale, The other suggests that we are a species with amnesia, living on the ruins of a past we can't fully remember. The conflict isn't just about a map, it's about the stability of our identity as a civilization. If we don't know where we came from, how can we be certain of where we are going? The lines on the gazelle skin are more than geography, they are the boundaries of our own self-knowledge. As we look at the jagged lines of the Antarctic coast on that 500-year-old document, we feel the weight of the unknown. The map is a warning that knowledge is fragile, and that the truth can be buried under miles of ice or centuries of dogma. It invites us to keep searching, to keep questioning, and to never assume that the story we are given is the final one. We are characters in a plot we didn't design, holding a script that was edited long before we arrived. The Piri Reis map is a reminder that there are still shadows in our past that we cannot fully illuminate. It is a physical manifestation of a paradox, a piece of reality that doesn't fit the current puzzle. We live in an age where we believe we have mapped every square inch of the planet. We have satellites, drones, and deep-sea submersibles. We think there are no more surprises. But the Piri Reis map is a persistent question mark at the very edge of our world. Until we can explain how an admiral in 1513 knew what the land looked like under the Antarctic ice, we must accept that there is a part of our world that remains, quite literally, off the charts. The mystery is a journey into the heart of human uncertainty. It challenges our assumptions. It forces us to confront the possibility that we are not the first version of humanity to walk this earth with a global vision. In the silence of the museum, the parchment remains, a quiet provocation. It is a smudge on the lens of time. We are left staring at the gazelle skin, wondering if the lines we see are a map to our past or a warning about how much we can forget. Imagine if our current civilization were to face a sudden cataclysm. If our digital archives were wiped and our towers rusted away, what would remain? Perhaps a single durable fragment of a map. 500 years later, a new civilization might find it and call our reality a myth. We are currently playing the role of that future civilization, staring at the evidence of those who came before and trying to find the words to describe it. Ultimately, the map serves as a bridge between the known and the seemingly impossible. It exists at the intersection where the stories of lost ages meet the hard data of cartography. Whether it is a relic of a lost age or a mystery we have yet to solve, its presence is undeniable. It remains one of the most compelling pieces of evidence that the world we see is only a fragment of the world that was. In the shadows of the past, the truth is waiting, etched in the skin of a gazelle, hidden in plain sight. It is a light under the door, showing us that the room of history is much larger than we were told. The Piri Reis map is not a solution, but a persistent question that refuses to be silenced by the passage of time. It tells us that the Earth remembers even when we do not. It suggests that our greatest discovery might not be a new land, but a forgotten part of ourselves. As the lights dim on our current understanding, the parchment of Piri Reis continues to glow with the faint, unsettling light of a truth that is waiting to be reclaimed. We are standing on the edge of a great forgetting, and the only way forward is to look back with honesty. The truth isn't always found in the light, sometimes it's hidden in the shadows of an old gazelle skin, waiting for someone brave enough to see the world as it truly was.